All right, everyone. I am extremely excited to share with you the one and only Kevin Nolan. Kevin Nolan is someone that I've had the chance to get to know on a more personal level recently. The reason I'm so excited about this is Kevin is a business owner, but he's a business owner who really saw himself as a business owner. He's owned a painting company for over 40 years called Nolan Painting, and they are not, if not the most profitable, biggest single family painting business in America that he's been able to create over the last 40 years. Even though many of you aren't in the construction space or the home furnishing space, the messages of Kevin's journey of how to be a business owner, the lessons he's learned, how he did it, why he did it, are all applicable to you. And so I'm super excited to share Kevin Nolan with you, to share his new book, Organizational Muscle, with you, which you can find at organizationalmuscle.com. I'm just super excited for Kevin to be here because his business knowledge can be game changing for you. So I'm excited to share Kevin and his knowledge with you today. Thank you, Kevin, for being here.
Thanks, Justin. It's really a pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to be working with you and seeing some of the things that you're doing. And we immediately hit it off at a recent that we can spending some time together on. And we hit it off and immediately started talking business. And you're right, it really is all business. Most of my book focuses on everything from the business perspective, although I did start painting houses when I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about it.
Yeah. So I'm super excited. So let's just give a little background on who you are. Like, 19 years old, you started a painting business. I know that we spoke earlier that this was a business ownership that you had the mindset of. You never saw yourself as a painter, but how did you get into the painting? Why painting? And take us on a journey of how you got where you are today.
Painting was suggested to me. I had done some landscaping the year before. Didn't like it as much, although I do like landscaping, but it's physically a little more harder work. And painting seemed like a good skill that you could learn relatively quickly and make some money on. And that's still the case. I teach people how to paint relatively quickly, and we're able to make money on them. So I started painting while I was in college. But I really was always, that first summer I painted by myself and I was very lonely. I was really a people person and wanted to surround myself with people. So I immediately started hiring people. And so that means you're in business. I will say that back in the day when I started, it was pretty simple. I didn't know what an insurance policy was, and I'm not sure if I filed a tax return those first couple of summers, but it seemed to be a pretty straightforward way to make money. And then, I just started hiring people and grew, and then had to pay the tax man and the insurance man, and also had to get real serious about running a business and immediately gravitated towards that. I did suffer those first 10 years where I was my most productive employee. And so therefore I had to physically do a lot of the work to get the job done and to get paid, which I think a lot of business owners probably can remember or identify with when we call it being stuck in the hourglass, where they literally have to approve everything, each piece of sand as it goes through, and they're stuck in there. Like the bottleneck from growth is them.
Yeah.
So many, many years stuck in that bottleneck before I finally broke out.
I think that's an important point because a lot of the people that are listening to this, they have grown a business that's become quite successful, and it might not be apparent to them that they still are the bottleneck, that it could go to a whole other level if they were able to remove themselves from that bottleneck and stop being the looking at every sand as it fell through and checking it off and doing everything and start to delegate. And one of the things I really liked about your book is the level of detail and transparency that you gave on your journey. You were not holding back on the mistakes that you made and having that personal realization that, man, I am this. And I think that every business owner needs to come to that spot of, I'm the problem of, I'm doing fine, but I could go so much bigger if I just step back and let other people.
Yeah, and also have a better life. I mean, really, one of the things that happens is when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s and you're the sole person and you're running the business, is you really don't have a great balance of life. you're working like 60, 70 plus hours a week, and you're missing out on some of the things that you really shouldn't be missing out on. You're making sacrifices,
Yeah.
which if the sacrifices lead to much, much better things, maybe that's worth it. But a lot of times, just you're working for the worst boss in the world yourself, just
Yeah.
lots and lots and lots of hours, and probably not even paying yourself as well. I see that happen. They don't pay themselves as well, and they don't have any really discipline about how that's going to change.
Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah, and it has to change.
It's the stuff that actually matters gets missed on, and you make the excuse, "Well, someday I'll start paying attention to that," but the someday doesn't come till your kids are gone, they don't like you as much, you haven't spent the time with them, and you missed out on all the stuff. And so
Yeah.
I really like that's a key point is it's about the life that you get to open yourself up to, not necessarily the bigger business and the more money, it's the life you open yourself up to.
Yeah, so much better. And then once you really catch on, everything else falls in place as well. I tell stories about when I hired somebody. So I used to try to visit every job every day. Wow. And I would run a couple of paint jobs while doing estimates as well. And whatever else I was doing. Everybody thought I was driving around drinking coffee, but I was usually just trying to get money and get money in the,
Yeah.
and then whatever other things you had to get back to people on. And it was never ending. I mean, it was overwhelming how many details you had to do. And when I finally hired a operations manager from within my company and decided to let go of I'm going to visit every job and put my thumbprint on every job. When I let that go, productivity dramatically increased. And we started to perform much better operationally as a company. And then the exact same experience happened when I hired estimator / salesperson, same person in our company.
Yeah.
I hired somebody to get jobs. When someone called, we estimate the job and we want to close the job. Well, that seemed like a special skill only I has, but not so much. I hired somebody who immediately had a better sales procedure than I did. He closed on jobs higher rate than I did because he followed up more quickly and responsibly, or he seemed to have the guts to put more hours on the job. I was always giving away owners' discounts. Everybody was friends and family in return. So John automatically changed my game because I remember the guys would say, "We don't want any of Ken's jobs. We want John's jobs. They're better jobs. They have more hours on them, and everything's better on the job. It's more organized." And so that is pretty humbling to hear when I really thought I was that. But what happens is so if you're painting a house and you leave, it stops painting. Nothing happens anymore. The minute you leave, it stops. And then that might even happen when you have a crew and there's 3 of you there and you leave to go to the paint store. The work might even slow down or stop.
Yeah.
So that focusing on that single focusing, that task of getting the work done is what the technician has to, otherwise the job doesn't get done.
Yeah.
The technician must focus on only one thing at a time. But the business owner can't do that. They have to focus on all the things, everything from the hiring to the marketing to they have to let somebody go. What a terrible thing to do, but you have to plan for it. How are you going to replace them? What are you going to say? Are you going to write them up a few times first? This is all the business stuff. That maybe is kind of not so pleasant. I'd rather just go paint a door, than do some of that stuff. But the reality of it is getting people to do the single focus tasking, whether it be selling or running the operations, or in this case, some cases it's HR, hiring these people, and then you being the multitask is actually what I was born to do, which was, the attention deficit syndrome entrepreneur who has all these ideas. Well, if you can get the right people in the right place in your company, and then you can be that multitasker who can check on everything and have a little bit of knowledge in each of these areas, that's really the most fun when you have experts. And, I have an HR department after years and years of making mistakes and having problems with human resources and getting fined by the Department of Labor for something silly or OSHA. or Homeland Security. They were all after me at one point or another. Well, I finally get an HR team, and much of those problems don't happen anymore. So there's some tough years when you're learning the hard way. That's the
Yeah.
hard,
Right.
trying to do it all yourself. So you have to get out of the hourglass and get single focused taskers in each of those areas.
I love it. I love how your book highlights how to do that. It's like a how-to manual, or how this is what we did to get out of the hourglass. This is who we hired. This is the processes we took. And you go through all these different elements of different parts of your business that you came to discovery. I got to get the single focus person here. And you go through the mapping of how you went out onto doing it. So I really encourage people to get your book, because it does show people how to do it and the mechanics behind it. One of the things that I
hope it becomes abundantly clear that they're best practices, but we don't tell you how to do it, because entrepreneurs don't want to be told anything. They have to learn it on their own. So you can just learn it the way I did it and maybe avoid some of the mistakes that I made.
Yeah. One area that I thought was really powerful, because our teams are an issue with every business owner. Like, how do you train people? How do you get them up? And you have a part of your book, and a part of your system, your operational system, is a very deliberate training system. Do you mind touching on that? Because I think that'd be very applicable to our people, because that is an issue that they run into very frequently.
Yeah. So bear in mind, it is simple. As I start talking about it, it might sound more complicated, but it's not. It's not any more complicated than if I were to try to talk about, how the National Football League is divided up.
Yeah.
It's just simply a matter of seeing it and then being able to understand it. But we have positions in the company, and there's a natural hierarchy that we've built in. An apprentice, they should never be left alone. An apprentice level 1 has been with us for less than 90 days, should never be left alone. They have to have supervision. So they also have a training program just for them. The 12 or 13 or 14 things they need to know in order to become an apprentice level 2, which they have 90 days to achieve. So they have their own specialized packet of information. It happens to be online, but you can print one out and just say, you need to learn this in the first 90 days. And by the way, if you can't, then we let you. You figure you're not trying really hard, or this is really not for you. And we'll do it in a friendly way, because that's what we're about. Everything's done in a friendly way. Now you have the balance of 1 year. So now you have 9 more months to get through the curriculum. And we have a curriculum of what it takes to be a professional painter. So we can train someone to be a professional painter in 1 year. So we have that next 9 months might have 20 little modules, everything from how to paint a door. And we have a 3-minute video on how to paint a door, along with a PowerPoint, but things that we think are important. That's the text. Then in field, that is being on-the-job training, that is being also shown. That's matching the way it was taught in the video, so they can correlate it. And then at some point when all the modules have been done, there's a test. We call it employee verification. We need you to get 100, and you can take it as many times as you need to get 100. So sometimes people take it 2, 3, 4 times in a row in the same day. Or they get 100. We want everybody to get 100, but then they become a painter. By the way, all along the way, pay raises, lots of little pay raises. There's 4 pay raises in the first year. So we've got what I call a learning path.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, there's painter level 1. Then there's painter level 2. Then there's master painter. Then there is an option to become a job leader. Now you're moving up into leadership territory. And then you have crew leader. And then you have a field manager. Then you have the vice president of operations. Those are very clearly defined. Each one of those positions has a job description. Okay, sometimes it's a little tweak or 2, but there's a job description, and then training programs that we build for each one. And it really isn't as hard as it sounds. I mean, it sounds like I've got volumes and volumes. We do now, but the way we did it is every year we went through the whole system again and refined it. So we put together, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, a very rudimentary system. And then every year we went through the entire thing, just like you paint a bridge, you start over again. And we refined it by tweaking each one every year, every week. And we tweak it, believe it or not, out loud in front of a meeting, an operations meeting. We review a module in front of 40 or 50 people. And then the committee looks for suggestions and looks to make a minor or major tweak. But it's all process improvement, right?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, after 10 years, you've got quite a robust program.
Yeah. The thing that I really resonated with is it gives the employees, they're always on a path forward, and they're actually being cultured. And if the person's the right fit, they're gonna stay with you because they have a path forward. It's not just random chaos when they show up at the office or when they show up at work. They know exactly what they should be doing. They're on a path forward. They're like, okay, I want to be Painter one, but I also have aspirations to being the crew lead, and I'm just going to keep working. And I just know my path. I know how to get there.
We publish wages, so they know what they would get when they would be a crew leader. Like they know what the money is.
Right.
So, I mean, if people are talking about what they're making side by side on a job, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
It's a job description. If you want the next job description with the pay increase, you can have it. You just have to afford it. Oh. The one tip that I always mention is that we always give somebody a tryout in the next job for not the first year. The first year we move them up very much regimented. But as they're moving up into the next system, to these leadership positions, we let them try these positions out for a matter of weeks or even months with no pressure, just to see if they're really comfortable. So like a job leader in our world runs one job. No, we paint houses. They're painting your house. That's where the rubber hits the road. The person that shows up friendly, smiling at your house and does the job and his team, that's a job leader. So a crew leader is going to run more than one job leader. Going to have a number of crews, like I was many years ago, visiting job after job. Yeah. So then the field manager is going to run a number of crews. So that's very much like the military, and it's how we scale. Because if we have it done correctly, which we do, we use decentralized command. So that means that everybody knows what they should be doing because they've been trained, and now no one has to command them. They already know. It's all been decentralized. And it's a beautiful thing.
Can you talk about, because I don't know if everyone knows just how impressive, how large your business is for a painting business. Can you talk about how rare that is? Because I don't think most of the painters I know are just solo folks, and it's just job after job after job after job. To make it to where you are is a pretty remarkable feat, at least for my.
It's been fits and starts and pandemics and recessions that have, because I thought it'd be bigger by now. We have about 150 employees. We also have a consulting company with about 150 clients across the country. I determined after a start and a fail, opening up an operation in the neighboring city, Baltimore, Maryland, I decided that the consulting would be a better way to spread some of my business practices. But we're employee based. That's what we're most proud of. We don't have any subcontractors. Employees that are, we're best place to work every year. We have health insurance, 401k, career advancement, and really outstanding customer service reviews. Just passed our 1,000th 5-star review, and we're just flying with customer satisfaction. So those are the things I'm most proud of. They obviously are also growing and profitable. Those I'm also proud of. But really, it was never for me about the money. I find that most entrepreneurs just want to build something that works. That works successfully, that works like they dreamed and planned. That's where I get the most satisfaction. And of course, you're always building budgets that show profits. So if you can make that work, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. What would you say is the top either one or two, maybe three lessons that you've learned over the years that you think a lot of business owners just aren't grasping? We've talked about a few, the team building and the catching yourself in the hourglass, but is there any others that you can think of that just are
Well,
really
yeah, I mean, the first 20 years, I hate to say I wasted them, but I don't know why. Business person, it took me 20 years to get to $1 million in revenue. And we're going to do 15 and a half this year. So it seemed to just be really a slow start. I was a slow learner. Reading books and studying business was turnaround for me about 20 years ago. And to start business planning, most businesses don't do a good job of business planning. Meaning a good business plan is laying out the strategy for 1 and 3 years. But particularly in that 1 year, you nail it. Like literally you say what you're going to do and then you get good at doing it. So even if in the first couple shots, like in 2000 was probably my first business plan. And, even if we made mistakes, let's say I picked 10 things we were going to do, 10 big rocks or action items, and hire a salesperson, let's say, even if I only got, 7 or 8 of them, that was still way ahead of just me shooting in the dark. Yeah. But by 2010, we're getting almost everything we say we're going to do. We're like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Precision growth, that precision planning and that making it happen becomes very addictive and enjoyable, and business becomes fun as opposed to chore of constant problems.
Yeah. The thing I'm hearing from you is you have to create the plan and you go do it. And even if you only got 1 or 2 in year 1, the fact that you hit 1 or 2 is more than you would have done had you just shot in the dark. So then next year it's going to hit 4 or 5. Then all of a sudden 10 years down the road, now you're hitting them every year. And that's how you got from barely getting to $1 million to almost 15 million this year, is because you kept planning and doing and just learning from the mistakes, but it took the action to go to execute those things.
Yeah. And the whole, like I mentioned before, continuous improvement, building it in. I talk about tons of things in my book. My brother says that I live in a world of declarative statement. I have all these things to say in my head. They're almost like I was programmed to say it, and like a lot of them, like one I keep saying to myself almost every day, entrepreneurial success is about behaving properly. So I don't really, to me, that means that if an entrepreneur needs to find out what the right thing is to do. So a lot of times as an entrepreneur, we're both entrepreneurs here. We don't always know what the right thing to do is. We have to do some research to find out what the right thing to do is. And then the next step that an entrepreneur has to do is they have to actually do it.
Yep.
And if you behave properly, then you're going to have entrepreneurial success. Like you just have to do the right things. You can't be stubborn and say, "Man, that's just the way I am." No, I can't do that. Like talk about finance. Finance. I just for years pretended I didn't know finance, and I still struggle with some of the terminologies. But no, I'm good at finance now because I also hired somebody much better than me at finance. But there's no excuse. You have to get good at all these. If these areas, you need to either get good yourself or develop competencies within your company, and you can't settle with that's just the way things are. Otherwise, like I said, you won't quite. You'll struggle more than maybe you need to, and you won't really have the fruition. Building on what I call, organizational muscle, which is all the things that an organization has to do to be strong. And it's all of these different topics. It is marketing, it is sales, it is finance. I actually have the book written in chapters, right? Like at the money chapter, I have particular views about money, about borrowing. I originally wrote the book with the thought of passing down the ideas to the next generation that's taking over my business. And, so some of the things that I wanted to make sure that they didn't do and be like, take out big loans, because some businesses get away with it, and taking out a loan for fixed assets probably can be a good idea. But, taking out loans for growth expansion in a business like mine could be deadly, with these recessions but we're actually struggling through. We're growing through it, but we're struggling a little bit through what we think is a recession now for our industry. And it certainly is based on, so the home improvement industry was gangbusters during COVID.
Right.
Everybody was gangbuster. Now, interest rates are low and there's very little buying and selling happening. Particularly, so the baby boomers are staying where they're staying where they're put right
Yep.
now. But they don't see a good opportunity to sell. And there's not enough housing for the millennials. And so we just don't have a lot of transition. Interest rates are a little high and everybody's holding on to home equity loans. And
Yep.
they might be spending money on traveling, but they're not spending money right now on their house like they did on. So that's a recession. So if you spent a lot, you took a big loan out, the government was handing away a lot of loans.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, there were economic disaster loans that were given out to people who didn't even have economic disasters. But it was cheap money, so the idea was take it. Which as long as you were careful with it, I suppose it's good. But I've always been against borrowing money for this business, growing the business as a bootstrapper.
Got it. Yeah, I think there's value there.
Makes
Yeah.
it work.
I really encourage people to read your book because it doesn't. I know that I said this at the beginning, but just because your business is a painting business, the principles in there can be applied to any business throughout. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. The organizational muscle ideas are applicable to any industry. So I think it's important for people to at least.
Yeah, well, mostly I got these ideas from some of the books that I had read that were applicable to all industries.
Yeah.
You know? So same thing. Yeah.
So as we get closing to the end here, what are ways for people to, obviously the book Organizational Muscle is a great way to connect with you and learn about what you're doing and putting out there. But what if someone wants more? They want to get a hold of you, follow you, listen to you. How do they find you? What are the ways for them to get in touch with you or to learn from you outside of your book?
Well, I certainly am welcome to discussions. I'm trying to sell a book, so I'm doing it one at a time and happy to talk with any business owner. And I can be reached at my website, which is organizationalmuscle.com. I also publish a weekly blog, a short little blog for the attention span of an entrepreneur. You can read it within about a half a cup of coffee. You got the blog read. But to try to basically focus on some of those, those truisms I was talking about before, some of those things that just seem abundantly obvious about the way we have to think when we're managing other people, when we're managing expectations, when we're trying to grow, we're trying to get new clients. A lot of business owners don't even know if they're doing the right thing. I'm not sure if you've ever experienced it, but
Yeah.
part of that first 20 years was I don't know if I was confident in some of the things I was doing. Like if I would have started to build a training program 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it would have been so much a better thing to do, but I don't think I would have been confident enough to pull it off,
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's just seeing that other people take these chances and they're confident they do it and it's a best practice and you can just copy it or plug and play it. Once again, entrepreneurs need to go on their own journey to learn these things. But I'm happy to be part of anybody's journey. You can head to my website. My email is kevin@orgmuscle.com. And of course, I'm on social media as well. And I have a consulting company with my brother, Brian, where we have mostly contractors, but a few other business owners as well. Only because that's our fractal. That's what we've gone after. But there's no question about it. I mean, I once sat down with a friend of mine who had an advertising agency and we fixed her problem, her profit problem. And it was the same type of profit problem I would have.
Yeah.
She took on clients. She had scope creep. She didn't track hours against it. They were losing money.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. That was an easy problem to fix. Track every hour, pay attention to the scope that's been contracted. And when you're doing anything extra for a customer, you have to charge them for it. And once we solved that problem, which is a typical business problem, they were able to start making some money. A lot of times it's really that simple, and the owner often or the entrepreneur can get in their own way.
Yeah. No, I've seen that for sure. One of my favorite analogies that I love to think about when we first start doing things, if we're trying to learn from other people and implement their ideas, is view it like a cookbook. You just follow the recipe, you get going, you get used to it. And then when you start to get more experience, you start to turn into a chef. You can start pulling out stuff, add in some things and fitting it to your specific needs. But start off with the recipes. And Organizational Muscle is definitely a recipe book that can be followed. And then you can adapt it once you get going farther down the road.
Yeah, like I said, ultimately it's an operating system, but an operating system that you would shape to your own business, clearly.
Yes.
Because every business needs to have their own unique operating system that they compete in the world, that they use to compete in the world. Yeah, but a lot of times people don't think in those terms. They think of it as have problems, solve a problem, have problems, solve a problem. The problems never end when that happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I have greatly appreciated your time today, Kevin. I'm thankful for it. I'm glad that you're able to come on.
Thank you.
If you were to leave one piece of wisdom on departure, what would it be for a business owner to give them if they're stuck in the cloud or if they're late? Just one piece of advice from your 40 years of experience that you think this is the one thing I think would be most valuable for you to just take action on.
Well, I guess the Zig Ziglar quote that I think about all the time, which is you can get anything you want in the world if you help other people get what they want. Basically, if you don't think of yourself first, you're allowed to think of yourself, but if you think of others, think of them first and think about how you can help them. You can really build teams and organizations of people that will help you get what you want. That's really the most rewarding thing in the world. That's human collaboration. And again, I wish I sort of learned some of those tricks earlier. But we've built quite a team in our company by helping each other get what we want.
I love that. Thank you very much, Kevin. All of the contact links for Kevin will be in the show notes. They'll be, when we post on social media, they'll be available there. So if you resonate with Kevin and you want more information, get his book, reach out to Kevin. He's a very friendly and open sharing person because he wants to help other people get what they want. So thank you, Kevin. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah.